Now, we usually say that every show is our best, but today it's obvious because joining us on another wrestling podcast is a man who not only reinvented himself, but countless others along the way. He is a former 3-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, as well as the inventor of DDP Yoga. It's our pleasure to welcome the one and only Diamond Dallas Page. How are you feeling these days?
You know, a guy who starts wrestling at 35, and my career did not take off until I was 40 years old. That was in 96. 1997 and 98, I was literally on top of the world. In 97 and 98, I was featured in 13 out of 24 main events or semi-main events. So I was living a rigorous schedule on top of flying out to LA all the time to do Hollywood Squares, Tonight Show. I did 7 appearances on the Tonight Show in a 2-month period, and trained Jay Leno to do the match that we did. I was just such a fever pitch of wearing my, candle at like 3 ends. I did 3 ends of the candle lit, if it's possible. And eventually my body went, and my back said, okay, you're done. I ruptured my L4 and L5 so badly that 3 different doctors said I would never wrestle again. Well, I just was offered, a multi-million-dollar 3-year deal, so there was like no way, I was not going to be able to go back. But, you got to do things that you really don't want to do. And I was in that position. I did not want to do yoga because I had this stigma that went along with it. It was just ignorance. But I also wasn't really into all the spiritual mumbo-jumbo. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I totally appreciate it today. I have plenty of my friends who teach that way. But it's just not my thing. And after I'd been doing this power yoga for about 3 weeks, I started to feel a significant difference. So at night I started to mix the rehab that I was doing, because I've got rehab, both shoulder injuries, both knee injuries. And I mixed the rehab positions with the yoga positions. Like, wow, this flows pretty good. And then I started working old school calisthenics, push-ups, squats, crunches, and something I call dynamic resistance. And that's just like, isometrics meets isokinetics. It's flexing and engaging your muscles, which jacks your heart rate up. Mm-hmm. Well, in less than 3 months of doing this, I'm back in the ring. Like 3 of the top specialists in the world at 42 said my career's over. At 43, I'm the heavyweight champion of the world. So obviously I'm going to keep doing that and make it a part of my passion, my lifestyle. And as soon as I stopped wrestling, I completely stopped everything except for DDP Yoga. And I started to turn people onto it that wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga. Mm-hmm. And that, I believe, is the hook that, that makes it so accessible, because I have a lot of fun with it. And people catch it in my live workshops, or will be coming to the Performance Center here in Atlanta, Georgia. They're going to see it. They laugh. They have fun. And I make it, energetic, but at the same time, I want them to have a good time with it.
Sure. Now, you've changed so many people's lives for the better with your positivity, with DDP Yoga. How rewarding is it to be able to, change people's lives?
It puts a whole new perspective on life, because it happens once, and then it happens again, and then it happens again. And then all of a sudden you have hundreds and thousands of people that are like, thank you for saving my life type of thing. Like, I have a guy, we were leaving, over this period, this last 2 years, we've filmed the resurrection of Jake the Snake, and Scott Hall came into that. And, it's an amazing journey on film that we created this documentary, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. And over that period, so many lives were changed. And we were leaving our first screening at Sundance Film Festival, not Sundance, but Slam Dance. The Slam Dance and Sundance are in Park City at the same time. And we were leaving our first screening, which was sold out, and a guy walks up to me. He's about 6'2", maybe 6'3", about 330 pounds. And he says to me, Diamond, I love the workout. It's changing my life. He said, I've lost 190 pounds in 8 months. And I thought, like, That's crazy number. Like I don't believe that number coming in. You know, like anyone could say that to me. So my fiance Brenda goes, "Did you just say you lost 160 pounds in 10 months?" He said, "No, I lost 190 pounds in 8 months."
Wow.
And we have a site called Team DDP Yoga, and anybody can go there, teamddpyoga.com. Because I would say, don't listen to a word I say. Go talk to the people who are doing it. And I said to him, "Is there any chance?" Because when you invest in the DDP Yoga program, you're sent a link to Team DDP Yoga. And I said, "Is there any chance you signed up on Team DDP Yoga?" And he said, "Yes, I did." Now, I have 6 pictures that I want everyone to take, but a lot of people don't take them because they really don't think they're going to see any results, and they don't want to set themselves up to fail. But the reality is they set themselves up to succeed. So I said to him, "Is there any chance you took the 6 pictures?" He said, "Yes, I did." And he goes, "I wish I would have taken them the first day." He goes, "I took them 2 weeks later. There's already a monster difference."
Yeah.
He said, "This program has changed my life." Now, I'm hearing it, but I'm not totally believing it yet. So I go to the site, and 8 months ago, there is Jared Mollenkopf, and on day one, this is 8 months at the time, and I read his journal, and I see the goals that he set, and you can go back. You have to register at that time, and when you register, boom, the date's right there. You can't fake that, So when I read his journal, and then he listed all these goals, and next to him, done. I mean, he still had a lot to go, but he listed like 12, 15 goals. And I was blown away. There's the pictures. Day 1, 8 months. And I invited him to, after I saw this, I called him up and I invited him to a big party we were having up in the Royal Rumble party. And, he had no idea I wasn't going to be there. I was going to show up on the tube, in the Royal Rumble. But it was a big thrill for him to come down there and get to actually meet Jake and Scott and spend time with everybody. He came to my workshop in Las Vegas. Cauliflower Alley Club had their reunion last week, and while I was there, I flew in the day early and did a workshop at the Hard Rock Hotel. And we had like 60 people there on a Monday night. And the Hard Rock was blown away, so they gave me a weekend. Actually, August 22nd, I'll be heading back to Vegas for the workshop at the Hard Rock. It's going to be an awesome time. But here comes Jared again. And Jared's there. And when I brought him up on stage with me, on my little platform where I worked out, and I tell the story, I said he came up to me and he said he lost 190 pounds in 8 months. I go, that was 3 months ago. Where are you today? He started at 523 or somewhere around there, 520, 530. Wow. He was down 235 pounds.
Amazing.
Wow. And there's another guy who's there named Eric Thatcher, who is now going for his DDP Yoga certification, who started at 48. He had lost 183 pounds. That when we did the workshop was his 1 year anniversary. That was on that day he lost 183 pounds. So you talk about, and you have to remember, this DDP Yoga was never developed for weight loss.
Yeah.
It just turned out to be a really awesome side effect because of what I call dynamic resistance. And think about lifting weights. You grab some dumbbells. I don't care if you're doing bench, curls, lats. No matter what you're doing, you're moving weight. Well, to move weight, you have to engage muscles. That's how your body moves. Well, every time you flex or engage a muscle, your heart has to beat faster to get the blood to the muscle. Hence, You get in the fat burning zone when you're sitting down lifting weights. Well, I have you standing up, most of it. Sometimes you're on your knees. Sometimes you're on one knee. Sometimes you're on one foot. But the bottom line is you have to engage all these muscles to go through these movements that I'm going to take you through, whether they're rehab movements, old school calisthenics, or yoga positions. You've got to engage muscles. And what happens is every time you flex or engage a muscle, your heart's got to be faster to get the blood to the muscle. So you get a kick-ass cardiovascular workout with minimal joint impact. Plus, you break up scar tissue, so you dramatically increase your flexibility and strengthen your core like never before. So there's no other workout like it.
Now, you spoke about the workshops you're going out to Las Vegas. Now, we're based in the Northeast, and we know that you just recently had one in New York City a few months ago. But are you looking to come back out in the Northeast anytime soon?
Well, I'll actually be back almost on the same dates because I don't do yoga studios because my audience is more like from dojos, from jiu-jitsu places or halls or banquet halls or gymnasiums. But there's one yoga studio that I do in New York City. It's called Pure Yoga. And when I first came there, I did it one time years ago. We did like 30 people, and they were all my people. No one from the yoga studio came. So this year, they had an article, or say last year, they had an article come out in the New York Times. It was 6 pages about me and DDP Yoga and Jake and Scott, the journey and everything. Mm-hmm. Amazing article. Well, sure, yoga, they're owned by Equinox. They read that. They're like, we need to get this guy in here. So I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to draw enough people there in New York, and it costs too much for my people to come in and out and blah, blah, blah. And they offered me a big guarantee. So I said, okay, I'll do it. and we sold out. There was over 100 people there. A lot of the people came from the studio, but most of them that were my people. They came in from all over. I left there, hopped on a train, and went up to Newport, where I drew my biggest crowd ever. It was a girl named Jennifer, and she actually has this business where she sells sex toys. I guess there's a lot of money in it. She's the coolest chick. She's a big wrestling fan. Her and her husband, and they brought 100 of their people in for the big banquet they were doing and giving out awards. And they asked me if I would do a workshop there because they'd come down to WrestleMania and done one of the workshops with me. And it changed their lives. And she probably had about 40 or 50 people of her own that came to the workshop, but we did 151 people.
Wow.
At one time. And it isn't just a workout. Mm-hmm. A DDP Yoga workshop, it's more of a seminar type situation where they're all entitled the same thing. Inspiration meets perspiration. And I guarantee everyone, they're going to feel so jacked up leaving there. They're going to feel like they're going to run through a brick wall, and they're also going to sweat their ass off. But I do all the inspirational stuff first, and then I read that out throughout the day. And it's only set for 2.5 hours, maybe 3. But when I get a crowd that big, I'm going to be there for 5 hours, minimum of 4, because I'm not just going to do the introduction and inspiration. I get into really how to breathe. I do a whole thing on breathing. I do a whole thing on dynamic resistance, how to get your heart rate jacked up. I do a whole thing on breaking down the dime a dozen, and then we do a workout. And I make it pretty, because we've just gone through these dime a dozen moves, so that can be a workout for some people. And I keep the first 20 minutes pretty easy, for everybody. And I said, I know you people are feeling a little, blown up right now. Just sit down and watch the rest of it. If you want to come back in and I'll show you modifications. Yeah. And that's what happens. Some people sit out. I mean, I have people come to my workshops, and you don't there's always at least 1, 2. I've seen as many as 4 people out of 60, 80, 100 that are coming in with a cane, walker. I've had people rolling on wheelchairs.
Wow.
Now, wheelchairs, they're going to make up their own shit as they go through that. But anybody with a can, I get them a chair. I've always got like at least 2. Sometimes I've had as many as 8 of my instructors that have all passed my certification test that teach DDP yoga. They come just to come because they learn so much more being around me when I'm doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing thing, man. I mean, every day. Today, my sister calls me, oh, my God, Steve Harvey was just live on Access Hollywood or whatever show he was on. And he was talking about some guy named Bill Bush, who I don't know who Bill Bush is, but he was talking about how he lost all this weight on DDP yoga.
Wow. There you go.
So you don't even know. You know, it comes at all different levels, all different times.
Sure. Now, you mentioned briefly before about the DDP Yoga Performance Center. Anything you can tell us, or for all the listeners out there, too, more about this?
Oh, man. It's a destination. You know, anyone who really wants to know about what I'm doing, starting this fall, all they have to do is come here. And, you know, it's right outside of Atlanta. I should say Atlanta, but it's one of the suburbs of Atlanta called Smyrna, where Julia Roberts was actually born in this town. They're building the Braves Stadium, the new Braves Stadium, 2 miles from my front door. So all the new roads are all paved and they're all redone. And I took this building, it was 4,000 square feet, gutted it, and then added 2,300 square feet of soundstage studio, like Hollywood type stuff. You know, blew all the, you know, you can hear a pin drop in my place. And the traffic is 12 feet, 15, 20 feet from my friggin' front door. And it's 22-foot ceilings. There's 3 sound stages in there, 1 for the workout, 1 for the green screen, and 1 for the kitchen. I've got a kitchen that is set up that would make any chef drool off the Cooking Network. Like, oh my God, why can't we do our place like DDP does this? Because we're going to also do cooking shows around healthy food, because people think that to eat healthy, it has to taste bad. I don't eat anything that doesn't taste amazing. And I eat healthy as you can possibly eat. But when I say healthy, I'm talking about real food. Like the word organic, like, oh, it's going to be organic. Hey, listen, bozo. You know, when I say it, your great-grandparents, if you ate like your great-grandparents, everything was organic.
Yep.
They hadn't ruined the soil yet. They didn't genetically change the vegetables. You got to eat what God created, not what the science lab creates.
Yeah.
And we're all going to eat processed food, but there's better choices of processed food, like food that's made from real food, as opposed to genetically modified. And that's all I do. Is I try to smart people up every day, you know, and explain to them, like, you know, what you're eating is shit.
Sure.
I know you think you're eating healthy, but everybody's going, oh, God, this wheat and this gluten, you know, this fad gluten. Like, first of all, you're a moron if you say that and you don't know what you're talking about. Because the wheat today, 99% of what wheat you eat in this country has been genetically changed. All you have to do is watch a movie called Genetic Roulette, and it'll explain everything to you.
Sure.
They'll tell you what they did to the corn, what they did to everything. Again, it's all about making money. I'm about healing people, helping people. People feel better, you know, have more energy, not so depressed, you know, feel better about themselves. The biggest thing that we've gotten out of DDP Yoga is people coming back to me and saying my self-esteem has grown to a whole different level. And a lot of that's due because they can't do, you know, the regular workout in the beginning. They can do the modified version. But over a period of time, they less modifying. Before you know they're doing it, they're doing the same thing that I'm doing. But I've always got someone modifying the position. So it gives them a whole different level of confidence.
All right. Now, for somebody who's listening to us today and they're kind of on the fence about signing up for DDP Yoga, what would you say to them?
Don't listen to what I said. You know, go to Facebook. DDP YOGA. Read what people write. You can't make people write that shit. You just can't. You can't make people chant your name in a wrestling arena. They gotta feel it. They gotta be involved. They gotta care about the character. You know, go to Twitter @RealDDP @DDP Yoga. Read what people write. Again, you can't fake that.
Yeah.
So, there's all sorts of DDP yoga. There's one that's members only, and all that is to get you, you click in and you say, I'd like to be a member. It's all like it keeps you out. But if they want to boot somebody because they're being an asshole, they can. That's why that's set up like that. But go to that DDP Yoga one word members only site. Read what people write there. It'll blow your mind. And how much people help each other. And Team DDP Yoga is set up as the best support system on the planet. After all that, go to DDPYoga.com, and everything's there. From the disabled veteran video, Arthur, who lost 140 pounds, more importantly, lost the knee braces, back brace, and wraparound canes, not just to walk, but to run.
DDP, thanks a lot for joining us.
My pleasure, Mike.
This person has pretty much seen and done it all in the world of pro wrestling. He is a wrestler, a trainer, an author, and a doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Tom Prichard.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
Great, man. Tom, thanks for joining us. First things first, how are you feeling these days?
Feeling great.
Awesome.
Couldn't be better. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I think we have to ask the obvious question. How did you become a doctor?
Well, that's kind of a funny thing. I talk about it in my training manual, my curriculum. But long story short, there was a guy who showed up and wanted to be a big star on TV in Alabama, and Robert Fuller decided he was going to take him with him to ringside, and they had an angle where they were going to bloody up those Rich boys, Tommy and Johnny Rich. And great angle, man. And this guy was going to be their doctor. He's going to be their cut man to make sure that nothing like that ever happened to Robert Fuller and Jimmy Goldman. And lo and behold, the next week when TV showed on Saturday, somebody from the FBI was watching, and this guy was a wanted. Was on the top 10 most wanted list in Birmingham, I guess, for the FBI. So Robert had to do away with the angle, but we were traveling to the town one day, and I was riding with Jimmy and Robert, and I happened to wear a pair of doctor pants that Sherry Martella gave me. I broke my leg, and Robert took a look at those pants and said, "By God, you can be our doctor, boy." And that's how I started to be a doctor in the van with Robert Fuller and Jimmy Goldman. That's kind of a long story, a short story that's even longer. Anyway.
Sure.
That's it, man.
All right. Now, like we mentioned, you've done it all in the business, but how did you get involved in the business to begin with? Is there a simple answer for that one or no?
Well, yeah, I think the simple answer is it's all I've ever wanted to do. And back when I was growing up, it wasn't just one company. You had territories, and for everyone born after 1985, they have no idea what a territory was or is, and I get it. But that was something I loved since I was 4 years old, and it was a far different business back then than it is today. But yeah, it's all I ever wanted to do.
Sure.
We recently had the Iron Sheik on the show. He was your trainer. What was the best thing that the Sheik taught you?
Well, here's the deal, man. I trained with the Sheik, I think, 2 months. I was working in the office when I was 16 years old for Paul Bosch, the wrestling office in Houston. And there was a football player who wanted to try out wrestling. And every Friday afternoon, Gary Hart was the booker. He would stop by with some of the guys at the wrestling office, go to the show with Paul that night. We'd go to that night show in the afternoon. And so a football player wanted to learn how to wrestle, and the Sheik was in the territory at the time. Gary brought the Sheik with him. And Paul knew I wanted to wrestle, so he said, "You could go with him if you want." And I said, "Well, shit." And I always brought my gear in the back, in the trunk anyway. So I was ready, and I went down to the Coliseum with the Iron Sheik. His name was Muhammad Farouk at that time. And I can't remember the football player's name to save my life because he lasted 2 weeks and he was gone. So, yeah, I mean, I got to tell you, man, the Sheik didn't smarten me up. He didn't smarten any of us up. Any of us. It was just 2 of us. But he, I think what he taught me was just getting in there with me was the best thing he could do with me, and showing me that he could have his way with me if he wanted to. Like, that make me humble. But he didn't. I mean, he slapped the shit out of me, but other than that, it was all right.
Sure. Now, you broke in during a time that is very different than today. What are some of the biggest differences you see between wrestling then versus maybe wrestling now?
Well, you have to evolve, obviously, and back then there was maybe 3 or 4 at the very most channels on TV, and I know that sounds really, really in the back ages and dark ages, and it is obviously compared to today. We didn't have any internet, we didn't have any cable TV. Excuse me. So that's why most of the Saturday morning and Sunday morning wrestling shows drew so well, because you had either cartoons or wrestling on Saturday, or you had the political shows on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And as a kid, what do you think we're going to watch? So, and wrestling, again, it was presented as more of a contest, I guess, and nobody was coming right out saying, hey, this is entertainment and we're working. But everybody thought if you did that, which through the century it had been done so many times before, the thinking was if you exposed the business and told all the secrets, nobody would come and see it, when actually what Vince proved is just the opposite took place. So, I mean, that's a huge, huge difference that we acknowledge it's an art form of entertainment. We have the Performance Center, and this is where people go. So back then it was, you had to get in the best way you can. You had to know somebody who knew somebody, or you had to, pretty much con your way in a con game. So
yeah.
Now, we talk about this a lot, but you spend a lot of time wrestling in different territories. Do you think that the lack of a territory system is hurting the wrestling business today?
No, I really don't. I think, I got to say, man, I think the wrestling business, well, let me say the sports entertainment business, but for all intents and purposes, we're talking about WWE, when we talk about the wrestling business. They are so well organized in a world of chaos, if that makes any sense. I think that the way they're doing it now, because NXT looks like they're going to be doing the national touring pretty soon too, and become their own little. Well, they already are. But I hate to say it like that, but they already are their own touring brand. So I don't think that the lack of territories would necessarily help today, because they're going to be judged and compared to WWE no matter what. And I just think that what hurts is the fact that these guys don't have anywhere. It's just not feasible. It's just not the way things are done today. They don't have anywhere to go like in a territory where you can learn from different guys. The way you can learn from different guys now is having different coaches and different opponents in Orlando. So that wasn't around when I was coming up.
Sure. Now, in many people's eyes, the WWE is the top of the mountaintop. You made it there competing in several different capacities. What did you learn most while being in the WWE?
It's what you have to learn in life, I think. And I learned that you can't sit back and let things just kind of pass you by, and you can't just take every suggestion that comes your way. You might want to question it, if not in your mind. Question whoever presented that suggestion or idea to you. I learned that probably too late, but at the same time, I was in a different place in my life. But now, it's a chess game, and you're dealing with some pretty heavy players.
Sure.
So.
Now, obviously, you underwent a huge transformation as one half of the Body Donnas. What were your true thoughts on being a Body Donna?
Horrible. I hated it. It was a drizzling shit. I love Chris Gambino, but the gimmick was horrible. It was just, nobody felt it, man. I was just, like I said, in a different place in my life, and it just was not.
Yeah.
Didn't have the basis or foundation, let me say that, to argue or to suggest anything else. I was just in a place of like, hey, it's a job. Let me do it. Let me get in here, and this is what I love to do. But God, this gimmick sucks.
Sure.
You know, if we cared that much, we would have done something about it. But obviously, we didn't. So.
Sure. So it was one of those things that, you know, maybe sounded good on paper, but when you actually did it, maybe
no. It didn't even sound good on paper. So, hey, how would you like to cut your hair, dye it blonde, and have a crew cut? And I said, absolutely not. I said, oh, okay, bye. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. What's the alternative? You know, going somewhere else or trying to work these indies? Hell no. So,
all right.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
All right. Now, as your full-time wrestling career started to wind down, you began mentoring potential wrestlers. What personally did you get out of training the future stars of tomorrow?
It was very rewarding and satisfying, especially when you have guys who were there and loved the business as I did, and or a lot of us did. Mm-hmm. To do this and do it well, you have to live it 24/7, and people don't understand that. And people also can say, hey, I'll sacrifice, I'll do anything. When it comes down to it, what you have to really do, people may balk at or take a step back and say, oh, I don't think I can do that. Well, that's anything. You know, and I said this over and over, and this is something I heard when I was a kid. There's three kinds of people in this world: those who try, and when they don't make it, they say, well, at least I tried. Those who give it the best shot, and when they don't make it, well, at least I gave it my best shot. Mm-hmm. And then that third person says, whatever it takes, I'm going to be successful. Mm-hmm. But you have to understand that may involve whatever it takes. Nothing's off the table. So, you know, I learned that. I knew that, but once again, you know, you have to explain that to the people you're trying to mentor and steer in the right direction. I have a dog who wants to bark right now, but you know, and explain to them that this doesn't just happen in wrestling; it happens in life. Mm-hmm. And for the guys who got it, they got it, and some guys were cut and came back stronger than ever. So. Yeah, that was rewarding, watching people succeed. And, you know, at the same time, you're going to watch, not everybody's going to make it. So you're going to watch both sides of the spectrum, and that's not always pleasant, but it's a fact of life.
Sure. Now, if you could tell a potential student maybe listening out there only one thing of a piece of advice, is there anything that strikes you of, you know, one piece of advice you want to give?
Sure, man. And I don't think it's just one thing, but the main thing is whenever you go to a wrestling school or somewhere who says they can train you, do some background search, do some research, do some due diligence to find out where this guy's been, what he's done. Has he trained anyone before? How long does he say he's been around? Can you find him anywhere? Can you look him up and find him? Mm-hmm. His resume or what he's done. Because too many times, and I've witnessed it here in Tennessee, there's guys who will make a claim that they were the Patriot and wrestled Bret Hart. This guy actually made this claim. I think it's in Sevierville, Tennessee, right outside of Knoxville. And told one of these kids he was the Patriot who wrestled Bret Hart. And when the guy came to me a couple of years ago during the camp, and he told me this, I said, Del Wilkes doesn't live here. What's his name? And he didn't even know his name. He just knew him as the Patriot. So, look, man, if you're going to hear because there's so many cons out there, just be careful, be safe. And if you're going to go to any wrestling schools, find out what they've done prior to. What gives them the right to train anybody or even be trusted with your body in the ring. Mm-hmm. Because that's pretty serious.
Sure.
And, yeah, that's what I would tell anybody starting out.
All right. Now, in the world of wrestling today, is there anybody that you see maybe out there that isn't being used to their full potential? Does anybody strike your mind?
You know, I think Sandow is finally getting some recognition of how talented he can really be and how what a performer he is, just given the opportunity. I enjoy, this is my personal guilty pleasure, watching Cesaro and Tyson Kidd. And I think they're a classic example of that old school team that is really going to get over with the people, because that's the style everybody's coming up with now, and that's the style I think that is getting the attention. You have to have that charisma, and you have to have that appeal to the people. Mm-hmm. But I hope that Cesaro and Tyson Kidd keep getting these matches where the people finally see it and see it for what it is. And it's classic tag team wrestling. So
sure,
those are three of my favorites right now.
Now, I'm not for sure if you still are current watching the WWE, but on Monday we saw Sami Zayn make his debut on Raw against John Cena. Who do you think the next big thing in the WWE will be?
I think Seth Rollins is doing a great job so far carrying the title. Mm-hmm. Roman Reigns surprised me, which I knew I shouldn't be surprised, but I didn't think at the time I said it was last August maybe that I didn't think Roman Reigns would be ready for WrestleMania. And he's a guy who I should have known because it's in his blood, and he proved, man, that he could do it. He could hang, and he deserved that spot. Mm-hmm. So I think Roman Reigns is definitely going to be a guy they're going to invest in for the next 5-10 years, hopefully. Huh. And I don't know, look, man, real quick, I want to mention Neville and Sami Zayn, because they came in through the Performance Center, and they've done a hell of a job. But they were great before they got there as well, and now to just put the finishing touches on them, it speaks volumes for what they're doing in developmental these days, and they're going to be big stars too, just by virtue of what they can do and the action they produce.
Sure. Now, you recently wrote a book, A Pro Wrestling Curriculum. What's your reasoning behind penning this book?
Well, my reasoning was because they told me, they being them, them, everybody knows them, sure. Well, that I needed a 1-year curriculum to take a person from day one until the end of the year. And I explained to this person that's not how it works. Not everyone's going to be at the same level. And this is the other way that I feel should work, and has worked. Mm-hmm. So when that happened, then I got a temporary interruption of service. I got fired. Mm-hmm. And I had this curriculum. So I said, well, the hell with this. I'm going to let this go to waste. So I published it myself. All right. And I think it has some excellent suggestions and ideas and advice. And it's, again, after being in WWE since I believe it was 93. Mm-hmm. And, so I mean, in over 35 years of wrestling, professional wrestling, the basics don't change. It will change some of the dynamics, and the landscape will change, but the basics will remain the same. Somewhere in that match, you're going to have to start, you're going to have to circle, you're going to have to walk in the ring, and it all starts in the very, very beginning. So anyway, I timed it out. I added suggestions, so I have a 1-year curriculum that you can put and use and switch and turn. And I think the first thing I say in the book is you have your way, I have my way, but the right way, the only way, it does not exist. There's many ways to do things. Mm-hmm. But anyway, it's all in the book, man, and that's why I wrote it.
Awesome. And can people find it anywhere, like Amazon and all that stuff? Or
It is on Amazon. It's also on my website, drtomprichard.com. They can find it there. But, yeah, Amazon has it. And, pretty much anywhere, just type it in, it'll come up.
All right. Yeah, and speaking of drtomprichard.com, the world is all over the social media universe from Facebook and Twitter. Where can the fans keep up with you these days, too?
On Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard and drtompritchard.com. And I was writing some blogs. I haven't wrote one in a little while. But let's see, I'm also on Facebook at Tom Prichard. So, I mean, you can get on me pretty much, I guess, every standard social media outlet. I don't really know.
Sure. Now, Tom, we barely scratched the surface, I like to say, but we really appreciate talking with you today, and hopefully down the line we'll get to talk to you again.
Sounds great. Thanks, Steve.